here's something interesting. The Constitutional Court has made a ruling affecting women who've been left out of a long-term partner's will. They will now have the same claims to their partner's estates as people in same-sex marriages or relationships. The case was brought by a domestic worker who was in a long-term relationship with a Cape Town businessman. She only discovered she was left out of his 10 million rand estate after his death. For more on this, we're joined by Paula Quinsee, who is a relationship expert. Paula, thank you very much for your time here on All Angles. Now, first of all, I'm trying to understand. So the law was a bit omitting, right, before it went to the Constitutional Court, because it only mentioned people in same-sex relationships. I had no idea that, if, for instance, I have a partner for 10 years, I couldn't be supported when he died.
Yes, absolutely. There was this misconception around life partners or common law husband and wife, that we had the same rights as married partners. And obviously that isn't true. And so the laws have been changed over the years, initially for same-sex relationships. But I'm glad that they are now starting to recognize that for opposite-sex marriages as well, and relationships.
And these things are always uncomfortable, right? I mean, if, for instance, this poor woman who, well done to her for changing the law, and to that judge, I think I read in an article that Judge Masocha in Cape Town is the one who said the law needed to be re-looked at, right? And she took that advice to the Constitutional Court, of course. But, it's always difficult to discuss these things, especially when you're just a girlfriend, like the in-laws would say. They'd start thinking maybe you were there for, the material things.
Absolutely. And, let's be honest, money is not a sexy subject to talk about. It's one of the top 5 things that couples argue about and often end up breaking up over or getting divorced over. But it is a very important topic to have conversations over because, I personally, my belief system, you don't have to have a wedding ring or a piece of paper to show your commitment to someone. You show it every day through your actions, your thoughts, your behaviors, and how you treat your partner in your relationship. And, when you are living together as committed life partners or common law husband-wife, whatever you want to call it, you share the same roles and responsibilities as you would have if you were married anyway. And when it comes to making decisions, financial decisions, decisions around your household, child rearings, decisions, etc. So why not have equal rights as well?
So their relationship with regards to this particular case that had the law change was 6 years old. So where do we draw the line in terms of, when a woman can claim in the estate of her long-term partner, or even vice versa? Can I go after 1 year of a relationship? Where do we draw the line?
I think every relationship is different and every case would be handled differently. I think, it's what we term as a long-term relationship. Is it 1 year? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? For me personally, I would say, especially if we look at marriage statistics these days, between 3 to 5 years is what is being considered a long-term committed relationship. And so I think we should look at the same sort of stats. If you're in a long-term relationship, you're making those lifetime commitments to each other. So I would say anything from 5 years upwards, you can start looking at some kind of reciprocation or some kind of benefits. But definitely, if you've been together for 10 years or more, you've made that lifetime commitment to each other.
And can you imagine all the women or men who, for instance, lost their partners from opposite sex relationships and are only finding this out now? So how do we work around that? Can somebody, it's the same, almost the same, of course, it's not the same in terms of density, but when the Constitutional Court changed the law around rape and said that you could go and open a case even if it's 10 years ago, what do you do in this kind of case? Can you go back if you lost your lover 10 years ago and you couldn't claim from his estate?
So I think that would be where legal advice would need to come in, and legal counsel. And because the law has only recently been changed, I think there are still a lot of grey areas that are, currently being reviewed. And it would depend on the nature of your relationship and the circumstances under which your relationship ended. But I think that would definitely be an area of discussion in terms of what does the law permit in terms of how far back you can go. And it would take some cases to maybe set the precedents for that, but it would need to be discussed from a legal perspective in terms of what the rights and the benefits are.
And Paula, I mean, also, this is also a difficult topic because the minute you start discussing a will, you have to think of you dying, right? You have to think of your loved ones living on earth without you. But I'm assuming that as a relationship expert, your advice perhaps would be just draw up a will so that you don't leave people fighting over your estate.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what wills are there for, is to communicate your dying wishes or your wishes as to what would happen with your estate and your benefits and your assets and all of those kind of things. But also, if children are involved, who is going to take care of the children and how are you going to provide for your partner and your children? When you're in a lifetime commitment or a long-term committed relationship and you're making those decisions every day together, there is a responsibility that comes with that as to how you want that to play out afterwards. So definitely there are things that you can have done. Yes, you can have a will drawn up. You can also have a partnership contract or a dream agreement drawn up, which is similar to an antenuptial contract when people get married, where it stipulates what each partner's obligations are to each other. And you can also have life policies and insurances drawn up where you make each other beneficiaries as well. But this is one of the things that you would have to discuss as a couple in terms of how are you going to provide for each other and take each other into account, not only emotionally, but also from a financial perspective as well.